What's up, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Bruce. Indeed, we're back with another song from Mr. Springsteen. Thank you as ever to Michaela, who has provided a curated track list of his material to start us off, and then given me access to, I think it's over 20 releases and albums, so we have Bruce for the coming weeks, months, and beyond. And the next tune we're going to listen to from this playlist is Atlantic City, which is obviously a very specific reference. I suppose it could mean a city on the Atlantic coast, but Atlantic City is in fact a city in New Jersey, and here in the US at least, it's one of the famous places where you can go to gamble and engage in that kind of nightlife. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this song addresses that, but maybe looks deeper or is not so much about what the city is known for stereotypically, but what's happening on the ground. It could just be the backdrop for a tale that is not intrinsically or inherently in Atlantic City, meaning it could be a love story that just so happens to take place in Atlantic City. But obviously it gives a very specific geographical backdrop to whatever the narrative may be. Let's give it a listen. This is Bruce Springsteen. The track is Atlantic City, and it's a tune included in a specifically curated track list provided by Michaela.
Well, they blew up a chicken man in Philly last night. Now they blew up his house too. Down on the boardwalk they're getting ready for a fight. Gonna see what them racket boys can do. Now there's trouble busting in from out of state, and the DA can't get no relief. Gonna be a rumble out on the promenade, and the gambling commission's hanging on by the skin of its teeth. Well, now everything dies, baby, that's a fact. Maybe everything that dies someday comes back. Put your makeup on, fix your hair pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Well, I got a job and tried to put my money away, but I got debts that no honest man can pay. So I drew what I had from the Central Trust, and I bought us 2 tickets on that Coast City bus. Baby, everything dies, honey, that's a fact. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back. Put your makeup on, put your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Stockings, baby, 'cause the night's getting cold. Maybe everything dies, baby, that's a fact. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back. I've been looking for a job, but it's hard to find. Down here it's just winners and losers, and don't get caught on the wrong side of that line. Well, I'm tired of coming out on this losing end. So honey, last night I met this guy, and I'm gonna do a little favor for him. Well, I guess everything dies, baby, that's a fact. Maybe everything that dies someday comes back. So fix your hair up nice, fix yourself up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Meet me tonight.
backing vocal, which I think is Bruce too, because it was very echoed and shouted. It was a very passionate backing vocal, and I like the way the lead vocal interacted with it. It provided a nice, like, polyphonic vocal texture. But of course, we again have the harmonica, really soulful, rich harmonica mixed with an acoustic guitar. I did wonder, was there a mandolin in there? There was a second, like, stringed instrument, but it didn't sound like another guitar. Then there was a moment in the second half where I was like, oh, maybe it's just a second acoustic guitar, but played a bit more rapidly. But yeah, I wondered if there was a mandolin in there. Either way, the lyrics seem to do, in one respect, what I thought. Like, there's reference to the gambling commission and to the nightlife of Atlantic City, but it does seem to be a more particular tale that features elements that go beyond just gambling. Though, again, that does seem to be part of it. So, what I think I heard on this first listen, and again, these are just initial impressions, and no doubt I won't have gotten all the details, but it sounds like someone who's working jobs, honest jobs that don't pay enough to really forge a life or even to get him from out under the debts that he already owes. And it sounds like at some point he's willing to put it all on a night in Atlantic City. He's going to try to gamble and win big, and maybe if he can do that, he can pay off these debts and actually have more of a full life. And it sounds like he's got a woman who he wants to come with him, and he's saying she's going to put on a fine dress and do up her hair and look the part when they go to these casinos or something like that. Though it's interesting, they take a city bus to get there, so using as little money as possible to get to this place where maybe, just maybe, they might play the right bet or pull the right lever on a slot machine and win big and thus solve a bunch of problems in his life. But it sounds like maybe that doesn't quite happen. And then it sounds like he's saying, like, oh, I'm going to have to go, I met this guy and he can maybe help me. I'm going to have to go do a favor for him. And that made me think, Atlantic City, one of the stereotypes, indeed in relation to the casinos and the gambling culture, is that it's a stomping ground for the mafia or for organized crime. And maybe I thought that part of the narrative is like he's met an unsavory character who's promised him, hey, you want to make some cash quick? You just got to help me do this thing, which who knows what this thing is, whether it's holding a place up or blackmailing or engaging in smuggling or something like that. But it sounds like maybe he gets an opportunity to do a job that is not on the level, but which might pay him some money that the gambling didn't seem to do. But I don't, unless I miss something, it sounds like we don't get the end of the story. It sounds like they're in this state of like, is he going to be able to do something? Is he not? Is he going to get caught? Is this, going to lead to the end of their relationship or worse? But yeah, it sounds like he's putting it all on a trip to Atlantic City and what might happen there. But there's also that part at the beginning about like there's a fight on the promenade and it's happening on the boardwalk and people coming in from out of state. And there seems to be a bit of a prologue here, and maybe this relates to something that was happening in Atlantic City or on the East Coast in the 70s or early 80s or something like that. I don't know. In the moment, Michaela did give me some dates for some of the songs, but in the moment I don't remember if this was one of them. But yeah, I wondered whether this is about a particular historical episode, if you will, in Atlantic City's past. And thus, this character, this fictional narrative, or maybe, again, perhaps it's based off something that really happened, but it sounds like it's, what the best historical fiction does, where it creates a character, it puts people into a real historical scenario, and thus we get to feel the texture of that scenario through a created story. But yeah, it's like there's like fights, maybe gangs, or maybe, organized crime groups fighting for turf, if you will, and into that comes this guy and his woman who seemingly need to make some money quick to help pay off these debts and relieve the burden on their lives. But it sounds like it, at the very least, it's not fulfilled by the time the song ends. So once again, let me know if I'm missing something here or if I'm misinterpreting, but I do enjoy the storytelling quality of his songs. Even, in a couple cases so far, I haven't been able to follow all the nuances or, get a clear picture of the overarching story. But he's clearly weaving tales. It's, not just setting a scene, not just singing about concepts or themes, but he's telling like stories with characters and, sequences of events based on psychology and the pressures of life and so on. Whether you're talking about a big city like New York or a small town by a river, or indeed people taking a bus to Atlantic City to try to make it, or at least to, win big and thus solve problems that they have. So yeah, I've already picked up on a bit of his lyrical songwriting tendencies, though again, very, very small sample size, and I look forward to hearing more. So, in any case, thank you again to Michaela. Shout out to those who've begun following the Bruce reactions. As I said, my plan is to do one roughly every 10 days. There might be further times where it goes a couple days longer than that. Maybe some times where I do it even more regularly than that, or, sooner than 10 days. But that's roughly the program, so I wanted to get back on track with that. And as I said, look for one coming very soon. Peace.